Hello everybody, this is our atomic timeline for Mr. Bobet's class and Mr. Joseph. Democritus. By convention beta, by convention sweet, but in reality atoms and void. He followed in the direction of Leucippus. Everything is made of indivisible, indestructible atoms, which are the smallest possible things with empty space in between. And his ideas were accepted for over 1,000 years, and nobody dared to challenge his beliefs, nor did they have any evidence to challenge him.
From the period after Democritus until Isaac Newton, not much changed because people accepted his theories, and others were busy experimenting with alchemy and other scientific theories that we now think of as inferior.
Next is Isaac Newton. He went to Trinity College in Cambridge, where he studied lessons of Aristotle. From 1670 to 1672, Newton investigated the refraction of light. He discovered that no matter if light was reflected, scattered, or transmitted, it would stay the same color, which he would eventually lead to the discovery of electrons. He also constructed a reflection telescope, proposed that the whole universe contained small masses in motion, along with the discovery of gravity.
After Newton, many discoveries began appearing very rapidly because, as one scientist discovered one thing, another added on to the idea to keep advancing modern science.
Lavoisier. He discovered oxygen and put together the first extensive list of elements, named hydrogen and oxygen. Also discovered chemical balances in elements.
Next is John Dalton. He published the first atomic weights of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, sulfur, and phosphorus. He believed that elements were made of spherical atoms, building on to the ideas of Democritus. He also found that atoms are combined, separated, or rearranged in chemical reactions.
Next is Michael Faraday. He worked mainly with chlorine, discovered two new compounds of chlorine and carbon, discovered electrolysis, which is the splitting of molecules with electricity, and laws of electricity.
Next, there is Julius Plucker, built cathode ray tube, which eventually helped discover the electron.
Next on this awesome timeline, we have Dmitry Mendeleev. He arranged elements into groups with similar properties, creating the periodic table, discovered properties of elements, and the periodic law.
Next is James Clerk Maxwell, who was a Scottish physicist who demonstrated theories such as magnetic and electric fields that travel through waves to fill voids. He also discovered the speed of light.
Next, Sir William Crookes discovered properties of cathode rays, such as they cause glass to fluoresce and travel in straight lines from the cathode. He discovered element thallium, identified first sample of helium, and invented Crookes' radiometer and Crookes' tube.
Next, Eugene Goldstein discovered anoid rays and is sometimes credited with the discovery of protons. He used cathode ray tube to study magnetic and electrical properties of canal rays.
Next we have G.J. Stoney, and he proposed that negatively charged electrons made up electricity.
Wilhelm Röntgen produced electromagnetic radiation in a wavelength known now as X-rays by using a Crookes tube, which was a cardboard contraption. In 1901, he received the very first Nobel Prize of Physics.
Henri Becquerel, a French physicist, co-discovered of radioactive along with Marie Curie. He also discovered by illuminating uranium salts with bright sunlight.
Next, J.J. Thomson came up with plum pudding model and discovered the electron, studied canal rays.
Ernest Rutherford studied alpha and beta rays. He was the first person to artificially disintegrate an element, used gold foil experiment to describe the nuclear structure of the atom.
Marie Curie studied uranium and thorium, and she called the spontaneous decay process of elements radioactivity.
Frederick Soddy, an English radiochemist that discovered the existence of isotopes of radioactive elements, proved that radioactive was caused by atomic transmutation, or the conversion of one chemical element or isotope to another.
Max Planck originated quantum theory, also studied electromagnetic radiation emitted by a black body perfect absorber.
Nagoka, Japanese physicist who rejected Thomson's plum pudding theory and proposed an early planetary model of an atom.
Richard Abegg was a German chemist who proposed valence theory and proposed that the maximum positive and negative valence of an element tends to be 8. Therefore, he anticipated the octet rule.
Hans Gregor invented the Gregor counter and created the experiment which eventually discovered the atomic nucleus.
R.A. Millikan figured out the charge of electron was negatively charged using the oil drop experiment, and also confirmed Albert Einstein's photoelectronic equation.
H.G.J. Moseley, by using X-rays to study atomic structures, he placed elements more accurately on the periodic table, also helped find multiple atomic numbers of elements.
Francis William Aston invented the mass spectrometer to identify 212 natural isotopes. He came up with whole number rules for the masses.
Niels Bohr made great contributions toward atomic structure and quantum mechanics. Bohr diagram of atoms named after him as he proposed it.
Louis de Broglie exhibited wave properties called matter waves, which helped prove Bohr's theory of how electrons try to stay stable at a designated radii.
Wolfgang Pauli created Pauli exclusion principle, which states arrows in an orbital configuration must spin in different directions.
Werner Heisenberg created quantum mechanics and studied the structure of the atomic nucleus. Proposed principle of interdermicity, which means that you cannot know both the position and the velocity of a particle.
Erwin Rudolph Joseph Alexander Schrödinger. Erwin Rudolph Joseph Alexander Schrödinger, Austrian physicist who developed a number of results of quantum theory. He also affirmed the basics of wave mechanics. He also wrote many books on topics such as color theory, cosmology, and general relativity.
Paul Dirac, English theoretical psychiatrist who studied quantum mechanics and quantum electrodynamics, formulated the direct equation and predicted the existence of antimatter.
James Chadwick, an English scientist who discovered the neutron using alpha particles.
The reason the neutron was discovered so late was because they lacked any electric charge, so they couldn't be discovered through many experiments such as cathode rays.
Lisa Meitner was an Austrian physicist that worked on radioactivity and nuclear physics and discovered nuclear fission. The 109th element, meitnerium, is named in her honor.
Glenn Seaborg, an American scientist who made many discoveries in transuranium elements, also suggested a change in the layout of the periodic table.
Enrico Fermi, Italian psychiatrist who developed the first nuclear reactor and also contributed to quantum theory, one of the founders of the atomic bomb.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자, 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자, 밤이 오면 심